Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're well. You are listening to Colney Talk Podcast, a bite-sized show. I'm your host, Alex. First-time listeners, thank you and welcome. And to my returning listeners, glad to have you as well. On the show, I pick out my top 3 Arsenal performers in the game and the other guy, the player who just didn't play well enough or had a poor game. Arsenal-Man City, a game we were really anticipating to play given the confidence and how we've performed so far this season. But straight away, we just were served a big pie of humility in this loss. 3-1 at home, such a terrible result. It feels deflating as a fan, I'll tell you. I can't imagine how other Arsenal fans are coping, hopefully in a positive way. I mean, the players, this is a tough one. We've gone through a series of it, this last week or so. And from the past game, I thought I would see some translation of that anger that we were robbed of our points and that disappointment and bring it into this game and translate it in some meaningful way. But I didn't see any of that. It was not the hot start that we usually get to see, and it wasn't something that I really saw as we started the game. This was a statement game for us for a lot of reasons, but more importantly, a win to put a significant gap between Arsenal and Man City. Honestly, it would require a rewatch to gather more insights to this loss. But for me, one thing that comes to mind when I try to make something out of this game is just loss of control. I'm not talking about loose balls or mistakes, which we just had in spades. But, I mean, we had that issue for sure, but it was just the control in our poise and control of what we are used to, something that we know we were up for in this game, who we were playing, the team that were going to press us hard and put us in positions that we knew how to really come out of that, situation and put our own stamp, especially when we're playing at home. So there was a lot to expect. We didn't get that. I mean, first half, it was just a handful. I mean, Arsenal, we were really under intense pressure at the back. We couldn't steady the game flow comfortably. Given how we've been all season, this game was unlike how we would usually cope in the high pressure. I'm aware this is City, but this is also Arsenal in this season so far. So the expectation is valid, is warranted. It's what we've seen and how we've managed to deal with it. But this is City, and we've had them in the back of our mind as the defending champions and a game that we wanted to measure ourselves up against. This wasn't a good measurement, and this wasn't a good situation that we would go battle with them. We have dealt with their style of attack. Our mistakes and out of sync passes cost us this game totally. And folks, there is all to it. There is nothing like a weird situation, a bad call, things like that. That's just how it really looked. Arsenal, we did respond in different moments though, but there, in my opinion, was a very growing frustration about what we're not doing well. Just translating things in the box with the other situations where we can show ourselves what we are capable of, what we know we usually do, or rather would expect to have our players do. For one, Eddie Nketiah and Martinelli connection is affecting us big time. It is just terrible. We are suffering from that. I can understand our front man Eddie playing selfish at times to score, but a decent expectation is to serve up to Martinelli because he's just another front man that can do just the same, and it frees him up as he runs through and creates his own form of havoc. But just that combination is non-existent, and it's deft in how we get to move up in the box and do things. It's just, I don't know, it's just a bad situation. The left side is usually dominant, but it's not as it is now. And the overwhelming feeling that we bring to defenders is just kind of like faded. Again, it points to how that combination with both of them doesn't really add more influence to that effect. It doesn't really create that fear factor that we normally would see in the past. I would argue that a portion of that is Eddie not linking up well with Martinelli. It's important that both players build a connection. They really have to establish that. It is necessary. They are serious threats on the ball, even in isolation. And I'm talking about either Eddie or Martinelli. But there's also a vulnerability if they can't tag team or create chances that you would expect and figure out how they can really manage and do things, because it's easily done, and that link up can be seen sometimes between Eddie and Saka on the right, but on the left it really just doesn't exist. So now it can be an area for other teams to exploit and create some more isolations and defend them in a situation where it's tough for them to create that link up. And folks, it just adds to so many of these deficiencies and things that we're not doing very well within the box. But that connection is one big area that is going to be talked about for a while until something changes, until they understand that that needs to be established for them to really get so much benefit out of it, to really gain a lot of more results and get some more scoring going that area, because there's a huge traffic coming from that left. But what we don't see is at that last final in the final third, there isn't anything going on between them. It's either the ball served up to Martinelli and he tries to do the rest, or he passes the ball back. But there isn't any other thing. I did notice even when Trossard came into the game, he links up with Eddie, but that doesn't happen if it were Martinelli. I don't know the reason. It doesn't seem like it's more of an instruction to me, but there is just so much of a concern there when we try to figure out why these two star good attacking players don't take these chances and do great things with it. So you're probably going to hear more about this. Now on to my top three players. First, Saka. I mean, the boy has no fear and he plays really strong. I like what I'm seeing with him. He is just a very strong, sharp, good player. He's tougher than you can think. He caused problems alone on the right. Very excellent penalty, and that's just another strength that he has already picked up, and he's doing a lot more of that, and it's really beautiful to see. But I want to see more ruthlessness in his finishing in the box. The chances and that growth in getting used to, finishing up with his right. He does it at times, but we suffered that in this game where he had a chance to really shoot it straight with his right. Easy. It's not as easy, I understand, but this is just one of those reasons where we'll require more from him in that he finishes. So that's more to come. My second guy, Odegaard. He was doing the most to keep things in front of us. Our better play and close chances came from his connections and through balls. I liked the way he was pressing and really trying to take charge and have the rest of the team follow in sync with him, which happened, and it helped break off their game plan, City that is. But this is City we're talking about. They can do things and recover, and in the second half they did do a lot of that, and it almost felt like our own pressing wasn't really good enough to stand against the elevated levels that they brought in, because in the second half it was a total different ball game. They dominated so much more than we would have. And for Odegaard, I don't remember seeing him making any goal shots. He normally would do that. Maybe they just didn't give him that opportunity to do it within the box. I figured if he had some attempts, who knows, we could have it could have been a different situation. But that's again a lot of what ifs in a game that we suffered in different situations. So that's another time for a wish. In my third and final player, Saka, he looked okay to me. But I'm beginning to see his limitation in speed and movement and recovery with the ball. He's supported in very crucial places, and I wasn't discouraged in his performance, and he was one of the better players. I mean, we were riddled with so much mistakes. We really didn't stay as really tight and impressed in the way that we normally would, much as it would seem like there are opinions that would differ. But, for these players, they played higher than the others. And for Saka, even in the situations that he was in for this game and the role that he played, it was really crucial, and I really liked that. Now, the other player today was Zinchenko. it's not necessarily a surprise. He wasn't poor, but it was poor ball mistakes, and that cost us the game. It was not just even. It wasn't even Tomiyasu's mistake, even though he lacked that extra gear. I mean, it was a tough battle for him, but Zinchenko's situations just put us in very tight positions, and we kind of lost our edge, our nerves, the control. As I mentioned, it was just all gone. Zinchenko was just a little bit all over the place, and it was more about a better control and decision making that he normally would do and does in previous games. But for this game, it was just a bad one for me, and I think that's why he gets tagged for the other guy today. Well, folks, it was a painful loss. We have gone through it these last couple of weeks. We definitely will bounce back. All is not lost. It's just a terrible time to really, go through this, but I'm sure we're probably getting out of it, because to be fair, these last couple of teams that we played were not easy at all, as much as anyone would assume. So let's just turn this over again and move on. That's all we can do. I look forward to better sides of our team, as we always expect, and that's how we would, hang on to much more hopes and better results for this season. So, folks, thanks for listening. Take care and bye.